A Wyoming blizzard screams across the plains, clawing at a lone cabin where Sarah Cutler kneels by the hearth. Her cotton dress, worn thin by years of use, clings to her frame as she stokes the fire, her hips shifting gently with each motion. Embers rise and fall, flickering like thoughts she hasn't dared name in years. At 40, her hands bear the calluses of solitude, her heart worn from the weight of whispers, of her barren years and her strange ways with roots and herbs. Then, a sudden pounding at the door slices through the storm's cry. Her breath catches. The loose strap of her dress slips, bearing a glimpse of her shoulder. It's Jonah Reed, 18, lean, and trembling beneath a threadbare coat. His eyes burn with hunger and cold. She pulls him inside, her fingers brushing against the chill of his arm. The touch is brief, but something in it lingers. A warmth, a pull she can't explain. His body leans unsteady, and as she steadies him, her hand rests on his chest for just a moment, enough to feel his heart racing wild beneath. Jonah's gaze meets hers, raw and uncertain, then drops quickly, his face flushed. Sarah steps back, pulse quickened, scolding herself for a feeling she thought long buried. In this frozen night, with the wind howling outside and the fire flickering low, will she offer him shelter? Or has something deeper already taken root, too quiet to name and too dangerous to ignore? If this story stirred something in you, leave a like, share where you're listening from, and subscribe for more Wild West tales of longing, solitude, and redemption. The blizzard's wail softens to a low moan, wrapping the Wyoming cabin in an uneasy hush. Sarah Cutler stands at the door, her breath shallow, watching Jonah Reed shake snow from his tattered coat. His frame, lean but hardened by the wild, fills the threshold. His eyes, sharp with hunger and something deeper, catching hers for a moment too long. She turns away, her fingers fumbling with a kettle, the cold iron grounding her racing pulse. At 40, Sarah's heart is a locked vault, scarred by a husband lost to fever and years of whispers about her childless womb, her strange ways with herbs. Yet this man, 18, raw as the wind howling outside, stirs embers she thought long dead. Jonah slumps by the hearth, his hands clenched, knuckles pale against the firelight. "Ma'am, I ain't got words for your kindness," he says, his voice rough, cracked from days without food or shelter. Sarah pours broth, her faded cotton dress swaying as she moves, the fabric catching the glow, tracing the curve of her waist. She sets the bowl before him, her fingers brushing his as she pulls back. The touch is brief, a spark that sets her skin alight, her breath catching in her throat. His gaze lifts, bold yet shy, holding hers with an intensity that makes her step back, heart hammering. She's a fool, she tells herself, to feel this heat for a man so young, so broken. Yet the air between them hums, heavy with what neither dares name. Weeks bleed into one another, and Jonah stays. He takes to her land like it's his own, mending fences, splitting wood, his hands steady and sure. Sarah watches from the porch, her pulse quickening as he swings the axe, his shirt clinging damp to his back, the sun carving out the strength in his shoulders. She grips her basket of herbs, ashamed of the warmth pooling in her chest, the way her eyes linger. The townsfolk shun her, call her witch for her healing bruise, their whispers cutting deeper than the winter wind. But Jonah doesn't flinch. He kneels beside her in the sage patch, his voice soft, curious. "My ma used to dry these," he says, his fingers grazing hers as they pluck leaves, the touch sending a shiver through her. She pulls back, hiding her flush behind a curt nod, her heart scolding her for the thoughts creeping in. One dusk, Under a sky streaked with fire, they sit on the porch, the silence thick between them. Jonah speaks first, his voice low, halting. Fever took my kin 2 winters back. Pa, Ma, my little sister. Gone in a week. Been drifting since. Nowhere to call home. His eyes, shadowed but fierce, meet hers, and Sarah's throat tightens. My John went the same way, she whispers, her words raw, spilling like blood from a fresh wound. Left me this land, these walls, and a quiet that chokes me. Her voice cracks, and she looks away, her fingers twisting in her apron. Jonah shifts closer, his shoulder brushing hers, his warmth slicing through the evening's chill. Her body wakes, a hunger she can't name clawing at her resolve. His gaze lingers on her lips, then falls, his breath uneven, his hands clenching as if to hold himself back. Sarah's mind reels. She's a woman grown, weathered by loss, her life a map of scars and solitude. He's barely a man, his youth a sharp contrast to her years. Yet the space between them crackles with something dangerous, something alive. She stands abruptly, muttering about the cold, and flees inside, her heart a storm of guilt and want. The cabin walls seem to close in, the fires glow, mocking her racing pulse. She busies herself with herbs, grinding them with fierce focus, but Jonah's presence lingers, his scent of pine and sweat, the way his eyes held hers, unguarded, hungry. She shakes her head, scolding herself. This is madness, a betrayal of her own heart, of the vows she buried with John. Yet the truth gnaws at her. She's never felt so alive as when Jonah's near. Summer hums over the Wyoming plains, the air thick with heat and the scent of sage. Sarah Cutler leans against the corral, her dress clinging to her curves, as she watches Jonah Reed hammer a post into the earth. At 18, he's no longer the shivering boy she pulled from the blizzard, but a man carving a place in her world. Her fingers tighten on the fence, her heart wrestling with the warmth his presence stirs, a warmth she's fought to bury since John's grave grew cold. Jonah works her land with a quiet strength, mending what's broken, tending livestock, his hands finding purpose where hers have faltered. They share meals, silences, stories. He speaks of his family's loss, his voice low, eyes distant. Thought I'd die out there, alone, he says one noon, wiping sweat from his brow. Sarah's gaze lingers on the bead of sweat trailing down his neck, her breath catching. She turns away, busying herself with a bucket of feed, her hips swaying as she moves, the motion drawing his eyes before he looks down, cheeks flushed. She curses herself for noticing, for wanting. He's too young, she tells herself, her heart a traitor to her own resolve. One afternoon, under a sky ablaze with the sun's dying light, they repair the horse corral. Sarah hands Jonah a hammer, their fingers brushing, her touch lingering a moment too long. His warmth sears her skin, her pulse quickening as she meets his gaze. His eyes, fierce yet hesitant, trace the curve of her cheek, where a strand of auburn hair clings, damp with sweat. He lifts a hand, slow, as if to brush it away, but stops, his breath catching. Sarah, he murmurs, the word raw, heavy with want. She steps back, her body alive with a fire she can't name, her mind screaming, "This is wrong. We need to finish," she says, voice sharp, turning to the fence, her hands trembling. Jonah nods, but the air between them crackles, thick with what neither will speak. Nights bring no relief. Under a sky studded with stars, they sit on the porch, the world quiet but for the hum of crickets. Sarah hums a folk tune, her voice soft, carrying the weight of years alone. Jonah listens, his shoulder brushing hers, his warmth a quiet invasion. "Teach me that one," he says, his voice low, close. She does, their voices weaving together, her breath catching as his exhales warm her neck. His gaze lingers on her lips. Bold now? Hungry. She feels it too. A pull that sets her heart racing. A fire waking after years of ash. Their hands rest close on the porch rail, fingers inches apart, the space a chasm she longs to cross. Jonah, she whispers, voice trembling. We can't. But her eyes betray her, locked on his, her body leaning closer despite her words. He freezes, his breath uneven, his hand twitching as if to reach for her. She stands, breaking the spell, her heart pounding as she retreats inside, the door shutting on the night's heavy promise. Sarah lies awake, the cabin's walls closing in. She sees John's face in her mind, his memory a ghost that haunts her desire. Jonah's too young, too pure for her weathered heart, yet his presence fills the empty spaces John left behind. She's a healer, shunned by a town that calls her strange, yet Jonah sees her, really sees her. Down the hall, Jonah stares at the ceiling, his chest tight with a longing he doesn't understand. He's a drifter, a boy with nothing but the road, yet Sarah's warmth, her strength, anchors him in a way he's never known. The Wyoming summer pulses with heat. The air thick as whispers from town, slithered toward Sarah Cutler's cabin. She stands at the well, drawing water, her dress clinging to her curves, the rope pulling taut as her arms flex, her breath uneven. Jonah Reed stacks wood nearby, his eyes tracing her movements, the sway of her hips, stirring a fire he fights to douse. The town's judgment cuts sharper now, branding Sarah a witch for her herbs, a sinner for her closeness to Jonah. He stands by her, his loyalty a quiet shield, but the weight of their stares presses heavy. Muster Amos Ward storms to the cabin, his voice thick with righteous fury. Ezra Kane at his side, his merchant's grin masking greed. Hannah Kane, Ezra's wife, grips a notebook, her eyes sharp with envy, her words venom. They're too close, she spits, her pen cataloging every stolen glance. Ezra's gaze is colder, fixed on Sarah's land, where a rumored silver vein lies. Sarah faces them, chin high, but her heart trembles. Jonah steps forward, fists clenched. Ain't no sin in kindness, he says, voice steady, but Amos sneers, and the crowd's murmurs bite like thorns. The group departs, but their words linger, a noose tightening. Sarah paces, her hands twisting in her apron, her mind a storm of fear and guilt. Jonah watches, his eyes fierce, aching to protect her. That night, rain drums the cabin roof, and they huddle in a corner, patching a leak. The lamp's glow dances over Sarah's face, her damp dress clinging to the swell of her breasts, her breath quickening as Jonah steps closer. His hand brushes her waist, steadying her, the touch igniting a spark. Sarah, he whispers, voice raw, pulling her near. Her hands find his chest, feeling the wild pulse beneath, her resolve crumbling. Their lips meet, deep, desperate, a kiss that drowns the storm outside. Sarah pulls back, her eyes glistening, her voice a broken whisper. I ain't worthy of this, Jonah. Not you. Not now. Her heart aches, torn between desire and the weight of age, of John's memory, of the town's judgment now sharpened by Amos's words. Jonah's gaze, pained but steady, searches hers. You're everything, Jonah breathes, his voice breaking, and he pulls her into his arms, their bodies pressed tight. Her fingers clutch his shirt, the fabric rough under her palms as she pulls him closer, her breath hot against his neck. His hands slide up her back, slow, deliberate, tracing the curve of her spine, sending shivers through her. Sarah's heart races, her body alive, with a need she's buried too long. She tilts her head, their lips crashing again, fiercer now, tongues tangling in a hungry dance. Jonah's fingers find the buttons of her dress, fumbling at first, then steady, undoing them one by one, the fabric parting to reveal the soft skin beneath. Her hands grip his shoulders, nails digging in as she presses herself closer, her curves molding to his frame. His breath catches, warm against her cheek, as he slides the dress off her shoulder, his lips brushing the exposed skin, a trail of fire in their wake. Sarah gasps, her fingers threading through his hair, pulling him back to her mouth, the kiss deep, consuming, a tide pulling them under. Her body trembles, like a flower withered too long, now blooming under his touch, her heart pounding with a joy she hasn't known since John. Outside, the rain still falls, a relentless curtain veiling the world. The town tightens its grip. They shun Sarah's crops, refuse her trade, their whispers branding her a sinner, a witch. Ezra's scheme grows bolder, his eyes gleaming with the promise of silver. Hannah wavers, her notebook heavy with truths she begins to question, her loveless marriage a shadow against Sarah and Jonah's fire. Sarah feels the walls closing in, her solitude a cage. Jonah, torn by her pain, wonders if his love is her undoing, yet he can't walk away. The rain slows, but the storm inside them rages. Sarah stands at the window, her silhouette sharp against the night. Jonah behind her, close but not touching. The space between them a battlefield of want and restraint. Can they defy the town's wrath? Or will their desire be their ruin? The Wyoming dawn breaks. Pale light spilling over the plains. But the storm inside Sarah Cutler's cabin lingers. Jonah Reed stands before her, his eyes fierce with a love he can't contain. "I ain't leaving, Sarah," he says, his voice steady, his hand brushing her arm, the touch a quiet fire. "I want you. Always." Her heart stumbles, torn by the memory of that rain-soaked night, their bodies entwined, her guilt a shadow that clings. She's 40, weathered by loss, branded a sinner by the town. He's 18, a drifter who found home in her eyes. "I've pulled you too far," she whispers, her voice breaking, but his gaze holds hers, unwavering. A knock shatters the moment. Hannah Kane stands at the door, her face pale, her notebook trembling in her hands. "Ezra's planning to take your land," she confesses, her voice low. "He'll call you mad, lock you away, and brand Jonah a predator." Her eyes, once sharp with envy, soften, her own loveless marriage, a wound she can't hide. She hands Sarah the notebook, pages filled with their stolen moments, a testament to a love she now sees as true. Sarah's hands shake, but resolve hardens on her. "We'll fight," she says, her voice firm. Jonah nods, his hand finding hers, their fingers lacing tight. They ride to Old Thomas, a retired preacher, through a forest thick with danger. A wolf's howl stops them, its eyes glinting in the dusk. Jonah steps before Sarah, his body a shield, his breath steady despite the threat. They reach Thomas, his hands trembling as he binds them in marriage, their vows a defiance of the town's scorn. Jonah lifts Sarah's chin, his lips meeting hers, deep and sure, his hand firm at her waist. She clings to him, her heart soaring, yet heavy with the fear of what's to come. Back at the cabin, they face Ezra's mob, Amos at his side, their accusations sharp. Sarah holds up the marriage papers, her voice cutting through the crowd. "We're bound, legal and true." A neighbor, silent till now, steps forward, revealing Ezra's lie. The silver vein's worth is a myth, his greed a hollow dream. The crowd falters, Ezra's plan crumbling like dry earth. He slinks away, his schemes dust in the wind. 5 years pass. Sarah and Jonah stand in a garden they've carved from the wild, their hands dirt-streaked, their love a quiet strength. The town's whispers have faded, their judgment no match for a bond forged in fire. Sarah's fingers trace Jonah's cheek, her eyes soft, her heart healed from years of loss. He pulls her close, his breath warm against her hair, their love a beacon in the Wyoming dusk. Beyond the garden, a single sunflower stands tall, its face turned to the fading light, a symbol of a love that defied the odds. If this tale of hearts unbroken moves you, drop a like, share your thoughts below, and hit subscribe for more stories of the Wild West. A super thanks keeps these tales alive, carrying us further down this dusty trail.